I'm Mike Uyak. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. Baroop, said the little green frog one day. Baroop, said the little green frog. Baroop, said the little green frog one day, and his eyes went bloop, bloop, bloop. I'm a little punchy today. Welcome, greetings, and salutations, Redeemers. Welcome to another episode of Recipe Redemption. Today, I'm just being a little goofy, but I'd like to discuss a somewhat divisive item in the market of mystery. You either like it or you don't. Frog legs. Although we sometimes think of frog legs as strictly a French thing, they're actually eaten in places all around the world, including right here in the US of A. They're in the South, they're typically battered and deep fried or grilled and naturally served with hot sauce. The Aztecs were known to be fond of them. In archaeological digs in Great Britain, remnants of cooked and eaten frog legs have been found and dated to anywhere between 5900 and 6200 BC, possibly predating their initial consumption in France, although they've since fallen in popularity in Britain over the past few hundred years, possibly in response to the various wars that England and France waged over the centuries and anti French political opinion campaigns over that same period of time, which of course would never happen in these modern days. Freedom fries. French culinary master Escoffier tried rebranding frog legs as nymphs. Frogs are nymphs, to rekindle interest in them in Britain in the late 19th century, but they still got a long way to go to regain their status as a dietary staple there. Speaking of the French, they only really started eating frog legs in bulk in the 12th century, uh, the Common era, and it all came down to a fad. You see, someone in the Catholic Church noticed that French monks in particular were living pretty high on the hog and becoming morbidly obese as a result. So an order came down that French monks were limited on the days of the year they could eat meat. However, the savvy monks managed to convince the church to decree that frogs counted as fish and they could therefore eat them year round, and they were plentiful in many regions of the country. The locals noticed this change in dietary preferences and decided to follow suit, and frogs suddenly became part of the national diet. Although in many places in the present day, various species of frogs are hunted in the wild or captured as a bonus crop as a side effect of other agriculture, particularly rice cultivation. In other places, they are actually farmed in and of themselves, particularly in the Sichuan region of China and parts of Indonesia. And I seem to remember reading something that Indonesia actually leads the world in exports of frogs for human consumption. I would suggest that unless you are personally experienced in hunting and cooking frogs and the selection of frogs, that you confine yourself to those frog legs that are sold in grocery stores, as these are indeed farmed and have at least been inspected prior to sale and consumption. And you have some assurance that the frog you're about to tuck into was reasonably healthy and free from parasites and disease beforehand. Also, you typically get just the hind legs, already removed from the rest of the frog, skinned, divested of the feet, which aren't really good eating anyway, Even big frogs don't have a ton of meat, and what they do have is pretty much centered on their thighs. Makes sense. They spend their life hopping around. That's where all the muscles are going to be. So that's why we typically focus on frogs' legs as from a culinary standpoint. The rest of the critter isn't worth the effort of trying to eat most of the time. So someone's done all that work for you. The frogs that I've bought for today's video come as saddles, what they call saddle, meaning the hip bone is included connecting the two legs. This is a convenient way to process the frogs, but it makes it a little bit unwieldy to eat. Or cook for that matter, particularly if you don't have a lot of big wide pans to uh, accommodate this funky sort of Y-shaped thing. Um, so to prep them by just cutting right up Main Street to separate the legs into more manageable pieces. Easier to eat too. Just it's a very small hip bone, so your knife will cut right through it. No big deal.
Now we're going to start off with classic Lyonnaise preparation for frog, which involves simply seasoning well with salt and freshly ground black pepper here. Dredging them lightly in all-purpose flour. Making sure to sort of tap them afterwards to make sure you get rid of any excess. There we are. And pan frying in some oil. And you'll notice I'm kind of flipping around. They recommend that you get the sort of rounded, thicker part of the leg downward first. And just leave these be to cook until they brown on one side before flipping them over. And once they are nicely browned on both sides, kill the heat and just use the residual heat to cook the persillade, which is a mixture of minced parsley and garlic. And just stir that all around to make sure that the garlic and parsley heat through, but they don't really need to cook that long. Now, since frog legs do seem to be quite like chicken drumettes, why not make buffalo wings out of them? I'm going to tweak the seasoning a bit because I want to play with that not quite fishy element by seasoning them like blackened catfish, throwing some Old Bay, cayenne pepper, paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, and extra black pepper onto the frog legs and into the dredging flour before frying, and a dash of that same seasoning into the buffalo sauce, which I'm making by melting some butter over some low heat with some parsley, garlic, the aforementioned seasoning, and adding Tabasco to continue with the Louisiana theme, and because it's the hot sauce I already have open. And I'm only heating this until the butter fully melts, then turning the heat off and just stirring and tossing my fried frog legs into this buffalo sauce to coat. The other direction you could go with frog legs is to cook them with strong flavors that mask the fishiness or any other flavor. I have two possibilities, both Asian inspired: Kung Pao frog legs and ginger and black bean frog legs. For the Kung Pao, I'm starting off with a marinade, which consists of soy sauce, oyster sauce, Chinese cooking wine, sugar, and ground white pepper. And just gonna set that in the fridge to marinate for about an hour before cooking. After that hour of marination is done, time to start cooking. I'm gonna start with some sesame oil in a medium hot wok, into which I'm going to throw some dried chilies and chopped garlic. Stir briskly to combine, and I'm just going to saute that a little bit until it becomes fragrant. I don't want these to become browned or burnt. After about a minute, I add some roughly sliced green onions and toss them to heat through. Followed by the frog legs with their marinade and a cup of chicken broth. And bring this up to a simmer and add a couple tablespoons of cornstarch slurry. And then let that cook for another couple of minutes just to make sure the cornstarch flavor actually cooks out and the sauce thickens. Surprisingly enough, the ginger and black bean frog legs start with ginger, and a good deal of it. I'm just going to saute that in some hot oil until it becomes nice and soft. That will take a couple of minutes, after which time I can add my frog legs. You'll note that I'm only adding 2 here, along with a couple of chilies, some more of the rough chopped green onion. Stir that around just to make sure they get to know each other a little better. And let's not forget some water, some oyster sauce, if it will come out of the bottle, and a good 3 tablespoons worth is what I'm guesstimating here of fermented black bean sauce. It's going to give it a really nice deep soy sort of umami flavor. And once that's had a chance to simmer for probably no more than about 4 or 5 minutes, give it a stir and add some cornstarch slurry and cook for just another couple of minutes to make sure that starchy flavor is cooked out and the sauce thickens. Now it's time to plate. Now on half of the plate I have some julienne baby bok choy. You can use lettuce or whatever. On the other side I have some brown rice that I've cooked up with a little bit of stock just to give it some flavor. Start with one of the lyonnaise or French style frog legs, followed by a couple of our buffalo frog wings, I guess we're going to call them. Next, over the rice, we have, I believe this is the the ginger and black bean frog legs. And on the other side, the kung pao frog legs. Both of those have a sauce that will match well with the brown rice. Make sure to spoon a good bit of the sauce over the top. Oh yeah, and because some people insist that kung pao has to have nuts, here are some chopped nuts.
So, how did they taste? Well, because these are commercially farmed frog legs, they were very mild in flavor, and other than the long shin bones, you could almost fool yourself into thinking that they were chicken wings. The lyonnaise preparation, as I mentioned, very light, very herbal, very neutral flavor to the meat, so really tasty. Same thing with the frog leg hot wings, the buffalo style frog legs. Really tasty. The sauce certainly does a lot of the heavy lifting as far as flavor is concerned. The breading was certainly a very nice addition, but otherwise just like chicken wings. The kung pao, not bad at all. The sauce was great. For some reason, those particular 2 frog legs were fishier than any of the others. The kung pao sauce did not cover up that flavor. I'm not 100% sure why, but it wasn't bad, but it was definitely more noticeable. I really, really liked the ginger and black bean frog legs, however. Although it was quite present, the ginger flavor it wasn't overpowering, but it gave it this peppery yet floral kick to it, while the black bean sauce pushed the umami soy flavor to 11. It was really, 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 really good. But again, you could fool yourself into thinking that these were chicken legs pretty much across the board. And I definitely recommend that you give them a try. They are lean. A nutritional breakdown that I found online states that The frog legs were zero point 0.3 grams of fat per 100 grams of meat versus 9.2 something grams of fat per 100 grams of chicken breast. I'm assuming that's skin on. Um, and it's lower in calories than chicken breast as a result. So, aside from the fact that I deep fried two of these recipes, they might just be a healthy alternative to chicken wings come Sunday afternoon when you're watching football with your friends. And considering the prices that I've seen for chicken wings lately, the substitution might not really impact your wallet any either. Pound for pound, they come out to be about the same. If you have a local grocery that stocks frog legs. Obviously, if you have to mail order them from out of state, they might not be worth it, other than as a novelty. I definitely recommend that you try them. They're perfectly tasty, good source of protein, low in fat, etc., etc. And again, you just have a couple of little clues like the long shin bone and that slight fishy flavor um, sort of note to it that indicates to you that this is not actually a chicken wing that you're eating, but otherwise, um, they're perfectly acceptable. They're really, really tasty. So, with that, let me know what you think and if there are any other preparations for frog legs that you've tried in the past that you would recommend. Um, Please leave them down in the comments below, and you know the drill. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And please, please do repost and pass on this the link to this video to any friends that you might think would be interested. I'm always looking for new viewers, and eventually, one day, if I get enough viewers, I might be able to monetize this and make money. So I can annoy you with ads if they don't already. I don't know. They might already annoy you with ads anyway, but at some point, I may get big enough that I'll actually start to make money from this. But, not really the main goal. It's more just the fun of doing it, trying new things, and sharing the experience with you. So, with that, I'll bid you adieu. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Recipe Redemption.